Побратим Алматы, город Тусон, один из самых быстрорастущих городов США, расположенный на юге штата Аризона, на полупустынном плато, в долине реки Санта-Крус. Этот город, привлекающий туристов колониальной испанской архитектурой, является современным центром по производству управляемых ракет, сборке самолетов, радиоэлектроники, оптических приборов и оптоэлектронных компонентов. Иногда Тусон, по аналогии с Силиконовой долиной, называют долиной оптики. Именно в этом городе расположен Аризонский университет, в котором до своей трагической гибели работал биохимик Рашад Халифа.
As a matter of fact, I came across Rashad's work in 1983. And that was the time that for the first time I actually read the Quran. In my life, that was the first time I was, 20, and I was 30 years old. And for the first time, I read the Quran. And I had a very bad translation, so I kept on reading, I struggled through. And I was impressed because I didn't know these things were in the Quran. And so it made me very curious. So when we moved to Baton Rouge, and I was at LSU, Louisiana State University, I went to the library and I checked out Yusuf Ali's book, translation, which is a very famous translation. And I read it and I was extremely impressed. So the 2 weeks was up, and so I had to go and take it back. So I took it back, and the next day I went to check it out again, it was gone. And I said, oh no, what am I going to do now? It was checked out by somebody else. And so what I did was boringly going through these other translations, and all of a sudden I saw this small book in there, and I grabbed it, and I opened up to the first page, and the first page actually, or the first chapter or surah in the Quran, and look at the footnote, and then I saw the footnote. And then that was the time that I could not put this back down. Okay, and that was about the mathematics of 19 and how this actually controls different aspects of the Quran. So I could not put it down. And I brought it home and I showed it to my wife. And then I called Mosque of Tucson. So that's the first time that I had contact with Rashad. And so I ordered the book, and I ordered the other book that he worked on, that visual presentation of the Quran, and also Computer Speaks God's Message to the World. And from then it was basically difference of night and day for me. And I met him in 1988, and so and I was very fascinated. And so it actually motivated me to work deeper and deeper into this mathematics. And he always used to tell us that this is just the beginning and just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to this. And now I can see it. I can see the dimensions of it, and it's absolutely mind-boggling.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rashad Khalifa, and what I'm about to share with you is the most important news in the history of the world. Because this is the most important news, it comes with something unique, something never witnessed before, a built-in, irrefutable proof of authenticity. The world's leaders are invited, as well as each and every one of you, invited to examine the evidence, then take action in accordance with this news.
Был или не был биохимик Рашад Халифа посланником? Этот вопрос и по сей день остается предметом ожесточенных споров. Но послание он принес. Это послание перевернуло умы исламских интеллектуалов всего мира и стоило ему жизни. Рашад Халифа открыл код 19, автограф Бога, оставленный им в своем последнем, финальном послании человечеству, в Великом Коране.
Being a physician, for example, I find embryology of human being much better described in that time. We are talking about 1400 years ago than, let's say, 100 years ago in our scientific world and scientific book. So this is not a point of really argument. If anybody is fair, is not really sided right or left, they can admit this is a book, a miracle book, which actually will testify to the authenticity of the right part of the previous books. When you want to see what's right in Bible, that's how I look at it, I study it, it's basically the same, exactly the same thing. Like the stories that are coming in the Quran, you can find them. Joseph's story, Jesus' story, all is in the Quran. So to summarize that, I will see the last book, because we believe this is the last. Prophecy testifies to the beauty and correctness of the previous. We believe in Jesus, we believe in Moses, we believe in Zoroastrians, as you know. So there is no way to argue when we have all this document. This is not out of prejudice, this is out of research, this is out of not only Muslim research, non-Muslim research have come to the same point.
Существует несколько вариантов написания коранического текста. Два из них наиболее распространены. Несмотря на то, что значительная часть этих двух текстов совпадает, между ними есть определенная разница в постановке огласовок, написании букв и количестве аятов. Все это оказывает влияние на значение текста и заставляет задуматься, какой из вариантов является оригиналом, одобренным Богом. Попытки решить эту задачу традиционными способами не увенчались успехом. Поэтому возникла необходимость в радикально новой методологии изучения коранического текста. В 1974 году такая методология была разработана Рашадом Халифа, который впервые применил методы компьютерного математического анализа к текстам традиционных вариантов написания Корана.
Chapter 74 is an incredible prophecy of the Quran. You don't need to believe in the Quran. Any scientist, I challenge them, this is not an ambiguous prophecy or something that you can interpret this way or that way. It is very specific prophecy, the year of the discovery, and many other elements in that one that shows that the time, the place, and the person who even discovered this is being specifically prophesied through this chapter. But there is also a general prophecy. The reaction of the people is prophesied in verse 31, 74:31. But in the past, people, when they didn't understand it, because the implication of these verses came into our awareness in 1974, chapter 74, 19 in that chapter, the year of the discovery. Before that, most likely Prophet Muhammad and those who were with him, they followed the Quranic instruction. If they didn't understand, they didn't rush to make up a meaning, to assign any meaning, just they wanted through their wishful thinking. Therefore, they knew that this has some interesting implications, because it's not easy to really understand some of the implications. And some past commentators of the Quran, they wondered how this 19 will increase the acknowledgement, the faith of the believers, how will convince the people of the book. And basically, you don't have any people of the book, Sunnis or Shiites, who deny 19. They cannot show me a single normal Christian or a Jew who is convinced by their 19, which is the number of angels alone.
Стражами огня мы сделали только ангелов, а количество их сделали искушением для неверующих.
Has no mathematical connection or as a rational evidence related to the Quran. Therefore, one, they have problem with explaining verse 31. How this 19 increases your faith? Why and how? Tell me how. Who do you know as a follower of the Old Testament and New Testament that change their perception, their idea of the Quran to the positive, how they accepted the Quran based on 19? They don't have any of the accounts of this verse. But after the fulfillment, after we discovered 19, now we know that this really is related to the numerical structure of the Quran. And I know many people whose faith increased. From faith became knowledge. Now we know that the Quran is the Word of God. And I know many Christians and Jews who converted to Islam, means peacemaking, and accepted the Quran as Word of God.
Величайшее открытие Рашада Халифы заключалось в принципиально новом математическом подходе к исследованию арабского текста Корана. Рашад первым использовал компьютер для изучения структуры книги и опробовал различные методы работы с оцифрованным текстом Писания. Результаты исследований доктора Халифы превзошли все ожидания и вышли за рамки тех целей, которые изначально были поставлены. В одном из вариантов написания, а именно в версии Хафс, им была обнаружена фантастическая по своей сложности система кодирования арабского текста при помощи общего для всей книги коэффициента деления, числа 19.
Number 19 is a very fascinating number in the Quran. It's actually mentioned in the Quran once, and it's in chapter 74 of the Quran, and it's in verse 30. And the verse simply said over it is 19, or on it is 19. And so to me, what is really, I can see from this, from the complexity of the mathematics I'm going to describe later, is that if 19 was not there, we would not be able to proceed in this mathematics. So this is a beacon, so to speak, along the way, that by this beacon, actually, we are guided through this maze of these numbers, okay? And so when I talk about ultimate mathematics, then you can actually see why it's so important to have this beacon. And so that's really the guiding light, if you like, okay? And if this number was not there, we would not be able to do it. So this is by God's design that He actually put the number as some kind of torch, a guiding torch.
Как правило, числа в Коране отчетливо определены. 40 ночей, 7 небес, 7 дней и так далее. Однако число 19 не определено, что подразумевает чисто математическую функцию этого числа.
Now, as far as authenticity of the book, we realize this figure 19, which is coming in the Quran and was discovered by one of good Muslim researchers, Brother Rashad, that there is no doubt this mathematical structure of such a book no way fits the Arabia of, 1400 years ago in such a beautiful, just the mathematical part of it, musical part of it, harmony of it, concept, and the issues are being discussed.
Теперь существует физическое свидетельство божественного послания миру. Это означает наступление новой эры в религии. Эры, где вера более не нужна, поскольку нет необходимости верить, когда есть знание. Предыдущие поколения были обязаны поклоняться Богу и принимать на веру Его господство. С появлением физического свидетельства, заключенного в этой книге, мы больше не верим, что Бог существует. Мы знаем, что Бог есть. И это знание подтверждает финальное божественное послание – Коран, в котором зашифровано уникальное физическое доказательство.
When you study the Quran as a whole, it becomes evident to you. And I do believe this code exists, and it makes a lot of sense. It's irrefutable proof. You can check it yourself. It's not that hard. You don't need to know mathematics or some complicated math to understand this. It's very simple and it exists. It tells you that there is a God, and He created a beautiful book for us to understand.
Код 19 – одно из величайших открытий в человеческой истории, поскольку он дает экстраординарное и универсальное свидетельство существования Бога. Ведь до сих пор большинство людей, включая адептов суннизма и шиизма, не имели возможности реально наблюдать чудесные божественные проявления. Код 19 открыл новую эру возможностей различать тех, кто склонен к регрессу, и тех, кто склонен к прогрессу. Он помогает отличить рациональных монотеистов от слепых последователей коллекций, созданных людьми домыслов и сектантских учений. Так же, как и от тех, кто пустословит по поводу Корана ради своих политических, экономических или других личных целей.
Some people don't take a strict stance on Code 19, therefore they're running away like zebras from it. On the one hand, I do feel that sometimes is true. There are, very people who are encroached in specific historical and theological understandings of Islam that lead them to be very scared of other interpretations. I do believe that exists, but on the other hand, no one individual can hold the scepter of the truth of Islam in his or her hand. No one individual can really do that. So what this really should be, any description of, Code 19 or any debate about numerological properties of the Quran, theological aspects of Quran and Hadith, should be done in an open forum type of manner, in a manner which respects everybody's opinion.
Выражаясь компьютерной терминологией, код 19 – это один из вирусных детекторов. Он диагностирует сознание, зараженное наиболее разрушительными вирусами – фанатизмом и политеизмом, и находит тот ум, который не заражен. Мы отправляемся в город ангелов, чтобы испытать этот вирусный детектор на самом знаменитом скептике Америки.